Now this is the Lara I fell in love with back in 1996, when a neighbor lent me Tomb Raider. I had no clue what I was getting into and I loved the game so much that I got the Director's Cut edition, which included 4 extra levels, and I got every single mainline game since then. Now, 28 years later, did Saber Interactive bring core design's icon back from a great teenage depression? Or should this Lara have remained buried in the survivor's subconsciousness forever? Well, let's find out. Tomb Raider Remastered came out for PC, PlayStation, Xbox and the Nintendo Switch. And it is based on one of the titles that would change the gaming landscape forever. So, without any further ado, let's start diving into Tomb Raider Remastered. And story is first. So, the game starts off with a blast from the past, your daily nuclear explosion in New Mexico, which seems to disturb the deep slumber of our frozen princess and accidentally lets her cryotube melt. Switching to the present day and to the bug-infested Imperial Hotel of Calcutta, where our icon Lara Croft chills in the lobby just waiting for someone to hit on her.
What's a man gotta do to get that kind of attention from you?
Well, to keep things moving, she luckily doesn't have to wait for that long. Anyway, Larson is the name. He's a hired gun of that crazy rich bitch, Jacqueline Nadler. She starts off like every rich asshole would and throws around those sweet dollary dues.
I'm sorry, I only play for sport.
In television, Nadler immediately morphs into a top-tier travel agent.
Ranges to cover, sheer walls of ice, rocky crags, savage winds.
She got rich bitch Lara by her most valuable round assets. I mean, a tour, a tomb, and the ancient artifact from the intro cinematic at her fingertips.
Are you busy tomorrow?
Obviously not. Let the game start. So, Lara finds a conveniently placed electric tomb door opener. A pack of wolf kills her wretched guide, and she jumps right into the action wielding her iconic dual pistols and slaughtering the pack like animals. Which they are. Well, now that she got rid of her emotional baggage, she quickly makes sure that he is indeed dead and enters the caves. A legend is born. Now, before we dive any further into the story, if you don't want any spoilers, go to here. So, dear Lara has quite a long way to go to get to the artifact. But hey, as a pro gamer, we wouldn't want it any other way. So after running through some caves, freaking out the locals and exploring the abandoned city of Vilcabamba, our gaming dinosaur finally meets one of her own, the T-Rex. Being quite unimpressed with his tiny brain and shooting the shit out of him, she arrives at the tomb of Kualopak, where to no surprise she finds our travel agent's artifact, the Scion. Once she nicks it, the whole tomb starts to collapse in true Raiders fashion. Game over? Well, this isn't her last revelation and the adventure must go on. So she escapes just to find out that her hopeless groupie Larson had been stalking her all along. And for whatever reason he has nothing better to do than to train his degenerate marksmanship. Why? I have no f***ing clue. Wouldn't he just have to wait for our tank top girl to simply return and hand over the Scion to his head honcho? Anyway, if this would have been the case, Tomb Raider would have been a better shareware back in the day. So after having dealt with metrosexual Larson, it's time to sit back, relax, and enjoy some reveals in a good old cutscene.
Hold on. I'm sorry. This piece you say, where's the rest?
Miss Natler put Pierre DuPont on that trail.
And since there's nothing else to get out of this scumbag, Kung Fu Lara simply knocks him unconscious. Since Lara now knows that there are more pieces to this artifact and therefore more fun to be had, she fast travels to Seattle, more specifically to Nadler Technologies headquarters. After this intense mental suffering of being double-crossed, Lara tries her best to lift herself up by breaking into Nettler's office, which weirdly enough doesn't seem to have any security system at all. Once there, she takes it down a notch, chills on the couch and reads Brother Herbert's prayer book to find out that
Is that entombed beneath our monastery is the body of Tycoons, one of the 3 legendary rulers of the lost continent Atlantis, and that with him lies his piece of the Atlantean Scion.
the Scion apparently holds tremendous powers. So with Lara's completionist FOMO, there is no other way but to find them all. And she travels to the Brothers' Monastery, St. Francis Foley, Greece. But Trashcan Pierre Dupont, one of Nettler's punks, is always one step ahead of her. He crosses paths with Lara way too often, tries to kill her, and then escapes when the situation gets critical. So, translucent Pierre, I mean, no shit, his skin is covered with some kind of armored plating or so, and then he just disappears into thin air every time Lara seems to get close to defeating him. I tell you, this is our translucent boy. The resemblance is there, right? Either that or he chucks down insane amounts of Perrier News life-extending formula. Whatever. What bothers me a little is that he's supposed to be an archaeologist. Beats me why in the 80s and 90s all those guys were carrying guns around. Anyway, after collecting 3 lead bars and transforming these into gold at Midas Palace, Lara can continue her research in the sewers. Yeah, only that core design gave these a much better name. The cisterns. So here, Pierre starts to be even more annoying and bothers again. And again. And yeah, you guessed it. Again. By this time I just wanted to give that bottle of Perrier a good shake, shove it up his ass and give it a shot. Just to see what happens, you know? Well, good thing is, if you don't want to be bothered by Pierre Perrier, just ignore him the first time around. He will then be stuck in that room since he's too much of a stupid moron to leave. And the game won't trigger him any longer. Well, for the rest of this level anyway. Okay, next Lara runs around in the Temple of Tycoons and has to start fighting some otherworldly shit that shoots some plasma crap at her. Shortly after, she reaches the inside of the temple, and it's finally time to meet this Pierre guy for the last time.
A little late for the prize giving, no?
Yeah, core design blessed us with an over-the-top French accent. Anyway, Perrier tries to run, again, but he doesn't seem to realize that there's a f***ing door in his way. So, Lara finishes him off and gets his 2 magnums and the second part of the Scion. Still inside of the temple, she deciphers an old wall painting.
Here lies Tycoons, one of the 2 just rulers of Atlantis.
Wait, what? Didn't Brother Herbert say that there were 3 rulers of Atlantis? And now she reads that they are 2 just rulers? What does that even mean? Anyway, Lara tries putting together the 2 parts of the Scion, which immediately induces some sort of hallucination shit that shows the 3 rulers of Atlantis, each with 1 part of the artifact. One of them went rogue and the other 2 took the piece of the Scion and imprisoned the boy or girl, whatever. Atlantis got destroyed, and as a result of this giant explosion, all parts of the Scion were scattered all around the globe. Well, so much for the backstory. In her delirium, she saw the last piece flying to Egypt. So yeah, obviously. I mean, where else could it be? The game is called Tomb Raider after all, and it would be shitty if the last part of the Scion would have been buried in the middle of Venice or London, right? Right? So our archaeologist digs to get to the lost city of Camoon. Once there, she runs and jumps around pointlessly before slaughtering some more endangered species. And since this is Egypt, why not throw some mummies into the mix? And let me tell you here already, these are the worst. They are even more sticky than your mummy and simply won't let go. So bloody annoying. So she's onto something here. The Obelisk of Khamun, where she has to fetch the Eye of Horus, Scarab, Seal of Anubis, and the Ankh. And this is now some pretty cool world-building shit for 1996. She goes right back to an area of the previous level to place these artifacts, open a door, and continue her journey through Egypt. Whoa. Go to a previous level to finish a puzzle and progress. Now let me tell you, this was some impressive shit back in the day. Anyway, she continues onwards to the sanctuary of the Scion, where she gets into some deep adventure tourism and does some climbing and cave diving around giant sculptures. She then comes across shit-faced Larson again, and this time, he's a goner. So, Lara gets the last piece of the Scion, and unfortunately travel agent Nutla and her gang appear to confirm.
Well, your little vacation riot's over now. Time to give back what you've hijacked off me.
They empty her lunchbox with the 2 parts of the Scion and all her weapons.
Well, kill her!
Fortunately for us, they do not succeed and Lara can escape into the canyon.
You morons!
She immediately teleports to her bike, follows a cruise, pulls off a little stunt and gets on board.
What the heck was that? What? That'll
Unnoticed, I might add. Well, after such stressful travel plans, she first has to rest and takes a nap. After waking up, she realizes that the yacht has anchored at the shores of a mysterious island. That of course tickles her adventurer instincts, and she decides to go for a smooth sunset swim and enters the island through what appears to be an underground mining operation. So Natla's gang did take everything away from her. Everything? Luckily not. They left her with tons of medipacks and all her ammo that she is now carrying inside of her magic lunchbox. After exploring the vicinity, it becomes obvious that Natla prepared all this way ahead of time. She planned to reunite the Scion and bring it to this remote island. Putting 1 and 1 together and deducting shit from her Scion-induced delirium, Lara realizes that Natla was onto something. The lost continent of Atlantis. This very island. Jacqueline Natla really put her money where her mouth is and brought some heavy machinery. A completely f***ing expedition. Planned and paid for by her own company. She seems obsessed. Or is she? Lara has to move some of the heavy equipment out of the way to recover her weapons, which one of these morons just left there. Like, yeah, to contribute to a great level design, I guess. So Lara is now on a mission to kill all the crooks that appeared in the last cutscene and starts with Cowboy. Yeah, that poor soul did not even get a proper name before his life hit a full stop. Before getting to the next name on our kill list, our hero first has to refresh a tan in this natural underground Sunbed 2000 and proceed to an underground pyramid made out of solid gold. Okay, yeah, I see it now. This is Atlantis after all. Now that she's all relaxed and has stretched her muscles, she can go back to her Olympic gymnastics, crush this Tony Hawk's spoof and loot his body to finally get what she was craving for all along. Dual Uzis. Anyway, in the meantime, Natla, now in her hot in-game representation, places a Scion on a shrine trying to hatch whatever creature is in this giant egg. And the underground pyramid, well, is not so underground anymore. From here on out, Lara goes all action Hollywood. Lots and lots of enemies await in this section of the game, which is actually a nice transition to Tomb Raider 2, which is definitely much more action-focused compared to this first installment in the series. Lara is approaching the end of her journey and it's time for the level design to go completely bonkers with some organic shit all over the walls. After climbing to the very top of the pyramid, yeah, this seems to be an unwritten law in video games. Anyway, After climbing to the top, Lara meets her unwanted twin stepsister, yeah, that's a thing, and throws her into a lava pit. I mean, she really doesn't do anything to Lara and just wants to copycat her. So yeah, why not just kill her, right? Whatever. Immoral Lara finds the completely assembled Scion, reaches out for it, and gets one of her addiction flashbacks from whatever shit is in those medipacks that she constantly takes. So, the big reveal. Are you ready? Jacqueline Natla was once one of the rulers over Atlantis.
We condemn you, Natla of Atlantis, for your crimes.
But she kind of overdid it with her cloning experiments and was sentenced to, well, what? Eternal slumber?
We're gonna lock you in limbo. Make your veins, heart, feet, and that diseased brain stick solid with frozen blood.
More like a cryosleep. Wow, what a bunch of softies. They even didn't have the death sentence back in the day. Anyway, we all know the rest of the story. She was awakened by that explosion from the beginning of the game. Obviously, Natla did not learn from her mistakes and set out to collect the fragments of the Scion to rule once again. Well, you know what they say. Once a megalomaniac bitch, always a megalomaniac bitch. So, after this hallucination, Natla appears, and since she and Lara are besties now, they have a friendly chat about evolution of all things. Anyway, Natla is about to become a mommy.
Hatching commences in 15 seconds.
And Lara is overcome by a sudden feeling of jealousy and does not want to share her new best friend with anyone else. Well, that didn't go as planned, and Lara has to run in circles to make the giant Atlantean motion sick. Once that's done, she has to deal with some more traps and enemies and prematurely decides, well, since she can't have the Scion, that no one else can have it either. I mean, not like she could have used it to do some good to this world, right? So anyway, destroying the Scion destabilizes the whole island and Lara needs to escape. Yeah, again. But not before that bitch of Atlantis shows her true face. Yeah. Well, this fight is slightly underwhelming and gave me some Shujimi vibes. Anyway, Lara escapes the island and hijacks Natla's yacht. Not sure if hijacking is the right term here, since she murdered all potential owners and this fine ship does not really belong to anyone anymore. Actually a nice transition, since Lara seems to use this very same yacht at the beginning of Underworld. A pretty neat connection between the two games. Anyway, enough about the story. There were a lot of things about this game that wowed me back in 1996. There just had never been anything like it. And yeah, Lara was present in all media. A strong, independent and clever female protagonist in a male-dominated environment. That was indeed something new and on the rise. But that wasn't what impressed me the most. I mean, sure, I didn't mind controlling a hot bitch through ancient tombs. But it was the fact that Tomb Raider showed its players a whole new world they could interact with. For the first time in my life, I felt like the game offered me the freedom to explore a location to my heart's content. The game is in 3D, third person, with large levels to explore. Yes, it has gunplay, but that was clearly not the focus. The story is split in 4 chapters with 3 to 5 levels each, and the levels within one chapter are directly connected to one another. So, you start the next level exactly at the point where you left off the last one. This creates a sense of 4 gigantic locations to explore, with CGI cinematics in between. So this might not mean much in times of Elden Ring or Cyberpunk. But hey, back in the day, mix that with the icon to be Lara Croft and a 3D engine taking advantage of the latest voodoo magic. It was simply breathtaking for a young talk. This world of theirs blew me away. And it was not only more of the same. The 4 sections look completely different from one another. Variation guaranteed. In the first section, Lara explores caves and large structures of ancient civilizations. Again, This was impressive stuff and is still atmospheric as hell. Later on, our icon travels to Greece and visits the ruins of a Colosseum. Even nowadays, Tomb Raider's world creates this distinctive urge for exploration. And yeah, it is not like many current games where exploration is equal to collectathon. No, the devs truly knew how to build a game and make exploration very satisfying, without any collectibles. There's a sense of achievement when reaching a spot that you thought you could never reach. And maybe having a nice view and some ammo pickups. That's it. No collectibles required. And then there are those really cool levels where these little challenge rooms are attached to this one hub room. That again was impressive stuff back in the day, and this system is still used in recent games. Of course, with current technology at a much larger scale. For example, with the DLC tombs of Shadow of the Tomb Raider. These large levels also meant that at some points the developers kind of missed the mark and made backtracking a significant factor. Like in Midas Palace, for example. After collecting 3 lead bars, you have to go to the sculpture of Midas at the other side of the level to transform these into golden ones. Then you have to run back to the other side again to use these to open a door. So I can see how this can get a little bit frustrating for some. But all in all, the world was a huge step forward back in the day. However, this wouldn't mean much if it wasn't for the characters that inhabit this world, right? And what else is there to say that wasn't already said 1,000 times? Lara Croft. Yeah. Not that horse-faced, miserable and depressed, borderline genderless, annoying teen going through an identity crisis and trying to survive her own personal, mentally unstable episode of Lost. No, not here. Lara Croft, the hot, smart British adventurer who looks death in the eye with a smile and dual magnums. And hey, don't get me wrong, I played through the Survivor trilogy and really enjoyed the games. But the Lara that was depicted there, yeah, not so much. So I was very excited for the return of the icon that I remember, in her green tank top wearing shorts and not giving a shit about sub-zero temperatures. She's a great character, but what about the others in the game? Well, there's really not much to choose from. Jacqueline Nadler, your typical rich and evil employer. A very superficial character, but with a twist. This makes her more interesting later on, but would spoil the surprise if I bring it up here. Apart from these two, there are just a couple of punks that try to kill Lara. I mean, besides their over-exaggerated accents, yeah, look who's talking. Well, apart from their exaggerated accent and looks, they really don't have anything going for them. And they really drag the rating down a bit. Okay, it is difficult for me to rate the story of a game that I've known for around 3 decades. But in summary, Tomb Raider has a good story, I mean nothing groundbreaking or so. But with some surprises up its sleeve. The world was truly remarkable for a 3D game back in the day. And the characters, well, it's OG Lara, what more is there to say? And with this, story, world and character gets a 7.9 out of 10. When most people think about Tomb Raider and Lara Croft, they automatically think about a dual-wielding killing machine, always with a cool one-liner on her lips. Or they think about a depressed teen holding a bow and arrow trying to hunt down a poor deer. Either way, this is really not the kind of game that the original or this remaster is. So let's dive into the game mechanics to find out what it is that makes Tomb Raider so special. When you boot up the game and get to the main menu, it's not set to New Game. No, it's Lara's home. Let's go! The game takes you through the mansion for some home tutoring with your hot private teacher, Lara Croft.
Home. I'll take you on a guided tour.
This acts like a little tutorial that teaches you all the basic movements you will need. But hey, there's no gunplay? Exactly.
Okay.
This already sets the mood and expectations, exploration and platforming. That's the name of the game. Yes, you will be shooting shit, but that's really not the main focus of Tomb Raider. But let's back off a little and check the settings first. I always love to see when devs include all localizations for a game on the disc. Here you can choose from a variety of languages. Ever wondered how Lara sounds in Japanese? Well, wonder no more.
あなたお守りの話をしてるの。
当たり前だ。おめえのケツの。
ちょっと待って。ごめんなさい。このシオンとお守りのかけらは他にどこにあるの？
Apart from that, you can customize your controls, but more about tank and modern controls later. And you can activate some quality of life improvements. It is really nice to see that Saber Interactive tried to bring this game into the modern era. And I can see the value for newcomers of the series. But for me, I'm looking for the original experience, with souped up visuals. So yeah, switching off most of this stuff. Okay, it's time to start digging into this first adventure that gave birth to an icon. So, as mentioned earlier, Tomb Raider is not so much about fighting, more about exploration and solving simple puzzles or bringing old mechanisms back to life. Basically, environmental puzzles. So again, exploration. Let's look at some of the puzzles, shall we? Timed doors. Well, these are doors, but timed. Yeah, what a surprise. And switches are everywhere. The ones that are more difficult to spot are actually the ones that are submerged. Ah yeah. Pushing blocks to clear paths or reach higher grounds. A true staple of the franchise. And this right here visualizes the grid structure of the game very well. One block is exactly one grid unit wide, deep, and high. This grid is the base on which all levels and the complete game structure and mechanics are built on. For example, when you make a short jump back, exactly one grid. When you make a running jump, Lara will run for exactly one grid before jumping. This is really important to remember if you want to get through the game. But back to the puzzles. Of course, there are different objects that Lara has to use throughout the game, all with the exact same goal: to clear paths. This can be quite repetitive. Pick up a key. Pick up other stuff like golden idols or so. Use the key to open a door. More switches to open other doors. Some switches that activate trapdoors. Even more switches to open even more doors. And using items to, yep, you guessed it, open doors. You get the idea. Repetitive like shit. But honestly, it is weirdly motivating since the game always gives you a sense of progression. And then there are ancient mechanisms to use. But from a gameplay perspective, this is exactly the same as using keys. It just looks cooler. And then there are some switches that move platforms and other shit around. Which actually brings us to platforming and Lara's gymnastic abilities. Lara can grab onto ledges to reach otherwise inaccessible areas. Place Sukuban and push or pull blocks, and I always wondered, how does she do it? I mean, from where does she pull? It's just a bloody flat surface. Anyway, dear Lara does a lot of platforming and avoids traps while doing so, like falling floor tiles or razor blades. So this here is supposed to be an ancient city. Yeah, right. Curtains? I mean, who the hell designed this death-trapped city? Okay, let's move on with other traps that you will encounter. Spikes. You might wanna walk slowly or otherwise you will lose health. And yeah, never jump into these, unless you want to end up as a British skewer. But not only spikes, no. Also ancient, malfunctioning automatic doors. Crazy how these old civilizations pulled this off, isn't it? And then there is some level-specific shit like Nikola Tesla's boards, or falling swords, and many more that I don't want to spoil here. Lara's movement repertoire of course also includes swimming. Well, you will mostly let her dive. And if you run out of air, it's not like the screen gets blurry or dark or some shit like that. No. Your health bar goes down at an alarming rate. Yep, this game has a good old school health bar. And none of this recover through inner peace and meditation bullshit that heals you when you stay put for a while. But besides all the exploration that you will be doing, and that is clearly the main focus of this first installment, there are also some enemies, obviously. I mean, Lara doesn't just carry her guns around for fun, does she? Most of the time she will be fighting the local wildlife that is not too fond of her intrusion. So basically Lara is just acting in self-defense, right? Those aggressive fellows include bats, wolves, bears, yeah, and not the windy ones. And later on even dinosaurs. In any case, a safe bet is to follow Obi-Wan's warning.
I have the high ground!
While no enemy will bother you up here, it is also pretty boring, and look, the game is not that difficult. So just go ahead, mingle with the people and have some fun. And for that, Lara has only 4 weapons at her disposal. Well, 3 times 2 plus 1. And yeah, that's not a lot. But then again, she's at a stage in her life where she just wants to have some fun and is not yet her future past survivor. Anyway, the weapons. Her trademark, the dual pistols. I really don't have anything to add to that. The shotgun. It is quite strong and kills most enemies in 1, 2 or 3 shots. Well, now that I think about it, maybe not that powerful. But what always bothered me about the shotgun was its shitty sound. Instead of having some kick to it, it sounds more like someone throwing a couple of bank snaps. I mean, listen to it. And was this improved upon in this remake? Yeah, no. The dual magnums. You get these quite late in the game, like past mid-game, and at that time you already have collected at least 700 rounds for them. These sound kind of muffled, but hey, at least they cause more damage than the standard pistols. So yeah, with so many clips lying around everywhere, once you get these magnums, you will never go back to the standard pistols. And lastly, the dual Uzis. These have an insane firing rate, and again, you get them super late in the game, like during the last 2.5 levels or so. And again, at that point you already have collected so much ammo that you will stick with them till the end of the game. What is cool but unrealistic about Lara's weapons is, and yeah, I'm not talking about her boobs and slightly dislocated center of gravity, no. What is unrealistic is that she doesn't have to reload. So the Uzis are just a constant stream of lead goodness. And except for the weapons, clips and more or less keys, there are not really any other items to pick up, well, except for the medipacks. So the small one restores half of Lara's health. And the big one is good for recovering from near-death experiences, as it completely replenishes Lara's health bar. The only other thing to say about the mechanics is that they went away with those save crystals. You can now save wherever and whenever you want, like in the good old DOS version. And yeah, this game is old school and doesn't bloody autosave every 5 seconds. So like in this case, I wanted to shoot a cool looking swan dive to use in this video, well, because it just looks cool. And I missed the water. And I hadn't yet saved in this level either. Over 25 minutes lost. That sucks, it sucks, I tell you. And this was not the only time such happened to me. Shit! Bitch! Scheiße! Ach du verfickte Pissnelke! So, make sure that you at least save at the beginning of every single level. Alright, the mechanics seem to be all good, so let's head over to the most controversial topic, the controls. And let me be upfront, you can switch between modern and tank controls whenever you like. And look, I'm really not a fan of the modern controls. I do appreciate them making the effort and implementing these, maybe for younger players that don't want to learn the old controls. But that's just not me. It not only looks funny when running around using modern controls, but unless I'm completely missing out on something, I could really not figure out how to do back or side flips without holding a gun. So again, Tomb Raider is grid-based. The whole level structure and the controls were designed around this system. And as mentioned before, you jump back exactly one grid unit. You run exactly one grid unit before jumping. This is very important to maximize your jump distance, which is required in later levels. So tank controls are the perfect fit for this structure. And do yourself a favor and use the D-pad instead of the analog stick for moving around. It's just that much more precise, and believe me, you will need this precision. So okay, I'm not a fan of the modern controls by any means. But what I really do appreciate is that the devs included some quality of life controls from later titles. Well, at least these were not present in the original PlayStation version I recently played. You can now flip your direction in mid-air. And flips in water are also possible now. And while you can still look around like in the old days by holding down a button and then pressing the respective direction, they also implemented camera controls via the right analog stick. A very welcome feature. So, the game mechanics are great and keep you motivated with lots of interesting traps and platforming sections while focusing on a rewarding exploration without that many rewards actually. It feels like a breeze of fresh air to play an action adventure where gunplay is actually not the focus. The controls might not be the holy grail, but these were designed specifically for the grid-based structure of the game and work flawlessly. With that, the game mechanics and controls score an 8.8 out of 10. Now, let's look at the visuals next. When I first played the game back in 1996, I did exactly this. At this very spot. Well, more like this. I had realized there were facial animations in video games. This was completely new territory for me. So anyway, as you can see, there's a button to change between new and old graphics. And back again. For the old graphics, there's no texture filtering like there was in the DOS version, and the frame rate is kinda choppy. But hey, high-res and widescreen, so there isn't really anything to complain about. The modern graphics look really great, and to be perfectly clear, this is a remaster. So all the accessible level geometry stayed exactly the same. This remaster is only a facelift, but one done right, with lots of improvements. Like nice water effects, and yeah, while not great, these are subtle and fitting to the original game. Or particle effects that give the impression that Lara is a vape-addicted bitch. Some weird hair physics that work for the most part. But hey, better than no physics like in the original. Nice bullet and lighting effects while firing. And the shadow of the Tomb Raider is a nice improvement. And added particle effects of snow or water dripping that add to the atmosphere. And all 2D sprites are now 3D objects. This applies to decorations and item pickups, which are slightly larger than life for better visibility. Fire got a similar treatment and looks more consistent with the sequels. Textures are much higher res, and some have even added 3D geometry. We got nice skyboxes and added extra geometry. These contribute to the level design and to the immersion without actually changing the gameplay. So that's really great and all, but the only thing that I would have loved to see is if they would have remade the cutscenes. These pre-rendered ones look so much worse than the actual gameplay and some of the in-game cinematics. But then again, this is a remaster and not a remake. Which brings us to the clipping of objects and walls, which was like super common for Tomb Raider and is still here. I feel like this was the game that introduced clipping to the world of video games. Anyway, while only playing the remaster, you don't realize just how many improvements were made to this game. But when playing the OG and remaster back to back, yeah, this is a huge improvement. And I would have wished for the same treatment in regards to the sound. But here everything is basically the same. Here there are some improvements and additions like wind hauling, which blends in perfectly. But most of the sounds stayed the same. And maybe this is a good thing after all, since all iconic sounds are still here. When you find a secret area, the item selection wheel, or Lara's frequent hiccups when climbing. So everything is pretty much as is, similar with the music. But then again, I can't really fault this, and it would have been a bloody sacrilege if they would have changed anything here. The title screen music is just iconic. And then there are some small bits and pieces that play when a dangerous situation is about to happen or traps are coming up. All in all, not much music, but the tracks that are here are truly music to my ears. In summary, the presentation is great. They made subtle changes to the visuals and sounds that contribute to the atmosphere of the game without changing any of it. Saber Interactive was very faithful to and respectful of the source material, and the presentation gets an 8.4 out of 10. On to the overall score. From the second this remaster was first announced, I was very excited to be able to relive Lara's first adventure on modern consoles, in high resolution with a smooth frame rate. To prepare myself, I replayed the recently released original PlayStation version on the Evercade, and I was stoked about how great her first adventure still holds up. It's not all about the graphics. While the story isn't groundbreaking or anything, it has a couple of surprises up its sleeve. And hey, Lara Croft more than makes up for it. I mean, yeah, she did not become a pop culture icon for no reason at all. And the world, the level design, it's just so rewarding to explore, and I found myself more often than not just wanting to check out the first room of a new level and ended up finishing it. It's just so rewarding to avoid traps and to platform through the levels with controls that were designed in perfect conjunction with the structure of the game. Saber Interactive really understood how to bring the presentation to the next level while still respecting the source material. All in all, Tomb Raider Remastered is located somewhere between a remaster and a remake. It is clearly not a remake, but then again, they did not simply remaster it either. And with that, the game deserves an overall score of 8.4 out of 10. To summarize this remaster in one sweet statement, Lara Croft stepped out of her shadow. The pop culture icon is back. Okay, on to final thoughts. So there's some extra content here, and it is unfortunately nowhere mentioned that you can bring up the photo mode also on PlayStation by pressing L3 and R3 at any time during the game. And this is pretty awesome to take great screenshots. It gives you quite some options, and while in photo mode, you can freely move the camera around with the analog sticks. This mode can also be misused to scout ahead or to check for secret areas, since the game pauses as soon as you enter photo mode. And then there is the New Game Plus option after finishing the game, which changes all medipacks to ammo. It now changes back to save crystals, which is the only way to save and heal Lara, with all cheats being deactivated and with Lara taking much more damage. So yeah, great for veterans of the game. But what is really cool is that they included the add-on Unfinished Business that was released for PC back in the day. This basically consists of 4 extra levels, extra hard levels. These levels take place in familiar settings from the main game, but are completely new. And they are much larger. Especially like the last level. Take the largest level of the main game and make it twice, scrap that, make it 3 times as big. It is impressive what they accomplished at the time by pushing their engine to its limits. And the levels are not only larger, no, they are so much tougher. It's like comparing Lara's home to the main game. And that's the difference you can expect between the main game and Unfinished Business. I mean like this section. So the devs expect you to let go while hanging. And you need to do this while almost at complete health. Because if you don't, well, then this happens. So really, back in the day, without internet, I was going nuts to figure this one out. Since every sane mind would think that this cannot be the right way. Well, wrong. This is exactly the path the game wants you to take. These 4 levels are simply brutal. Every room has either deadly traps or is filled with annoying enemies that just seem to stick on Lara. Or both. I'm not kidding, I saved twice as much during these levels as I did in the complete main game. And this brings me to the main point and to the only thing I remembered about these. They are challenging, but not rewarding. There's no sense of progression since the levels feel completely disjointed from the main game and don't contribute anything to the story. So yeah, I had played them like 2 times back in the day and that was that. Never got back to them. So I suggest to play them at least once, because they are really impressive. But that's it, most people won't play them a second time, and I can't really fault them for it. And that's about all I have to say about this game. So yeah, thanks for sticking around till the end of this review of Tomb Raider Remastered. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Again, thanks for watching and see you on the next one.